Welcome to Dentalflix Uncut, the ultimate podcast where dental professionals discover the secrets to exponentially growing their practice. We are Dr. Anissa Holmes and Allison Lacusier, the co-founders of Dentalflix, and each week we're bringing the dental industry's giants to you. From elite educators to transformative speakers, from innovative coaches to top-tier consultants, we deliver the insights of those who have revolutionized the dental field. Are you ready to elevate your practice beyond your wildest dreams? Stay tuned. A world of unmatched growth and success awaits with Dentalflix Uncut. Welcome to an episode of the Dentalflix Uncut podcast. We are here with the amazing Dino Watt. We are so excited to dive into this amazing speaker, dancer, and content creator for Dentalflix. Welcome to the podcast, Dino.
Hey, thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
I want to just start off by having you introduce yourself to the audience, but also please don't miss out the part where you talk about your dance career and how you bring that into your lectures all the time now. Honestly, I got to watch you speak last year and it was one of the best lectures I watched all year. So
Oh,
please
that's
make
nice.
sure you don't miss that part.
Well, I grew up a performer, a dancer. Like that's what I wanted to do. I saw Donny Osmond and his sister Marie, and I was like, I want to do that. And they would sing and dance on stage. And my dad wasn't not into that whatsoever. But when my parents divorced, I went to my mom and I said, "Can I go to dance class? I think that'd be really fun." And I was always kind of the ham. I'm the middle child, so I didn't get anything, but I got all the attention I needed because I was always doing crazy stuff. And she said, "Sure." And I signed up for my first dance class. I was a tap jazz ballet. I went all in, and I was a dancer all through high school. I became a semi-professional. I worked on dance videos and music videos and did some concerts and things like that. But I really liked the performing aspect of it. And I thought I was going to grow up and be an actor and be in Hollywood, be a performer in some way. And then I got married at 22 years old. I was almost 22, I think. Almost 22. And I had kids by the time I had three kids by the time I was 28. And I was working in the industry. I was a makeup artist, actually. I actually became a makeup artist in the industry so I could do some behind the scenes stuff and get known from people. But I quickly realized that working in the industry and wanting to be a dad and actually be home with my kids was not conducive. So I gave up on that and I was kind of bitter about it for a while. I almost had one of those, not almost, I did have those moments where I was like, my kids, like, you made me quit my dream, and that type of thing. But one day I was at a real estate seminar for a lot of weird reasons. And I saw this guy talking about taxes and he was on stage and he was funny and entertaining. And suddenly I realized, oh, wait, this guy is on a stage. I'm in the audience. He's performing. He's going to get paid. I can do that. And suddenly I had this new career open up to me where I could be a performer, but not what I thought I was going to be as a kid. I could have control of my own career. I can speak on stages. I can make a difference. I can move lives. I can teach really cool things and started on that for the next, man, it's been almost 25 years now that I've been doing that. So it's been really a lot of fun and I'm so grateful to be able to do what I do. So that's how I bring dance into it is I want to entertain, not just, I call it edutainment. I think a lot of people just spurt data on people all the time and they don't know how to engage an audience and how to really tell stories well. And so that's what I brought into the dental and ortho industry and it's been really a lot of fun.
I love it. And I know you have a pretty big mission. I got to get to know you last year quite well. And you have been working on that mission for the last 25 years. And if you wanted to share a little bit about that and like what you're teaching these teams and how you're transforming their lives.
Yeah, the mission actually started about a decade ago because I was working with a dentist in Kansas, and I was working with him on his relationship and how to make his marriage work a little better. He and his wife were working in their office together, and through a friend of a friend, we got connected. And he went, "Man, this is really great in my marriage, but I'm also married to, I think he had 8 other employees at the time. He's like, I'm married to 8 other work wives. So how do I communicate with them and have better systems with them?" So I came into the office, and with my business background, I built a business in LA and sold it and all sort of stuff. With that background, I went, well, why are you doing this and doing that? And I noticed very quickly that your biggest support system and the way you're going to grow your business the fastest is by having a really strong team and culture. And so I started working with him on relationships there. And My mission came right after that. About 6 months later, I met an orthodontist out of San Diego. Unfortunately, he was having some really big challenges. He came up to me after a speech I gave and told me all the challenges he was having. We kept in contact for a couple of months, but he never made the commitment to get the help and to get into my coaching program. And unfortunately, about 6 months later, I got a call from a mutual friend who said, "Hey, did you hear about Dr. So and so? He took his life yesterday." And that's when I really started to study about how, especially in the dental space, how addiction, divorce, suicide is so high. And I went, why aren't we really talking about this, but in a way that moves the needle and helps them? And why is that happening? Really kind of find out why. And so my mission is to reverse the direction of divorce, addiction, and suicide amongst private practice owners and their team members. Because obviously, I think everybody who's listening to this call has been affected in one way or another by someone in their family or friend group that has taken their life. My younger brother took his life a couple years ago. My son deals with suicidality. So I think it's a topic that if we don't cower from, but we bring it out in an entertaining way and talk about empowerment and how you can actually use it, and talk about it effectively with everybody, then everybody gets better and we're happier. So,
So for those who don't know who you are,
yeah.
right? Um, I'd love for you to share a little bit more because I know you work with teams, you work with culture. Can you share a little bit more about how specifically you help doctors and
Yeah.
teams?
Yeah, thank you. So I am a team transformation specialist. So I go into teams and I do trainings within the team, but I work as a lot of people have called me like a almost like a practice life coach because I'm coming in and working on, I believe that we put so much effort. And when I say we, I think any business that is really trying to make a difference and make money and then be successful, it's very easy to fall into let's work on the hard skill side of things. Are we good technicians? Do we have the latest technology? And you notice that's what a lot of people talk about when they talk about their business. We are going to create amazing smiles because we have the best technology. And what it's like, no one goes to you because technology, they go to because the relationship that you're building and the team and how they feel when they get there. And so what I do is I help focus on the soft skills side of things, what's known as the soft skills, but that's the emotional intelligence. That's the how do we communicate better at a higher rate? How do we are we just happier inside and outside of the practice? And so I give them the skills to do that. And my philosophy is that if you are only working on the hard skills, it's kind of like going to the gym every day, but then turning around and going to a fast food restaurant and trying to outwork out a bad diet. It's just never going to be successful. But if you work on the soft skills, oddly enough, your body will get better or your business will always get better in the hard skills because people are more willing to listen and to learn and to grow. And so I come in and I coach teams like that. And I'm actually starting out a group coaching model for office managers and helping support them a lot more because they deal with so much, right? They're not just office managers, they're coaches, they're referees, they're counselors, they're therapists, all that stuff. So that's how I go in and specifically help them.
So I'm very curious. I do have this transformation that you talk about,
Mhm.
right? And it's interesting because I had some office managers here at my home last week, and one of them I believe is incredible. She's wonderful, right? But we were going through an exercise and it was like, how do you communicate with your doctor if if they're moving too fast or you have to rein them back or like, if they want to do a million things, how do we work with that visionary leader? And she's like, I would tell my doctor, doc, we're not doing this because of this, right? And so her tone, I said, okay, so there's something called Type AI. It's an app that you can put on your phone and
Mhm.
you can type out anything and then it's chat basically open AI chat GPT and then you can press friendly, right? And so it
Oh,
changes
cool.
everything, right? And so said, I believe that what you're saying makes sense, but how do we put chat GPT or open AI in the friendly tone in our head so that now you're saying what you want to say, but we say it in a tone that's out of love, right? And so I know that a lot of people struggle,
Hmm.
right? They really struggle because it's just something within them that they, maybe have not admitted, right? I'm very curious, right?
Yeah.
Because this is so, so important. I'm very curious if you could share a little bit more, like go a little deeper if that's
Sure.
okay.
Yeah.
right? And maybe share a story of transformation of somebody that you've seen helped by the work that you've done, just so people can really get an understanding, because a lot of people are suffering right now. And so this
Yeah.
podcast is all about, it's uncut, right? Like we're
Yeah.
getting
Yeah.
real here,
Yeah.
right? Of really the transformation that's happened.
Yeah, I love that. And I wish that and there are times where, man, I didn't know about that app, but I wish I could import that app into my own brain, right? Because there are times where you say stuff and you're like, oh, that's that. Let me pull that back. That's not how I meant to say it. Right. And I think we all deal with that, whether it be heat of the moment or mostly it's habit, right? Because we have all built certain habits. The neural pathways in our brain have been created based on what we continually do over and over and over again. So one of the challenges that does happen, especially with office managers I see, and this is why I'm so focused on them right now, is in your family. And I don't know, I don't even know this. I know Allison, you're in a relationship. I've been married for almost 30 years. Anessa, you have a husband.
Dating.
Dating. Okay. So isn't it true that the people we're closest with, the people we have the closest relationship with, we tend to almost treat the worst sometimes? Like we say the things that we wouldn't say to a friend, or the way that we say it to a friend, or even especially a coworker. I think sometimes we get so familiar with people inside of the office that we forget how to actually have a real conversation with that person and be able to use our things like understanding our tone, understanding how to approach somebody, how to have a crucial conversation and not let us spiral down into a group of excuses. And there's a situation where I had in a office, one of the very first offices I ever worked with, because at that time I was kind of testing out my theory of, does this work for everyone, or are orthodontists or dentists special? And there's a lot of people who think they're special out there, right? There's a lot of orthodontists, but they come to us because of me, and it's my personality that sells it, right? Type thing. So this doctor had some very big challenges in his office, and he felt it so much that he was burnt out. Like he would talk about how he would come home and sit on his couch and fall asleep before dinner with his kids because he was just so exhausted from having to spend a day dealing with all these different personalities and problems and not knowing how to navigate them and negotiate them. And so what we did is, number one, we worked on, first of all, what does he really want out of a business? I think too many people don't know exactly what they want, and they do a rinse and repeat of what they've seen as opposed to making it personal. Where are the personal things inside of his office that make it about him, and so people know who he is? So we started off with there. Then we created, what is his vision for, what does he really want for a business in a long term? And then we created core values that said, hey, this is the way we show up every single day. For people who don't know me and haven't seen me speak, I truly believe that the right core values can fix any problem in a business, because people use core values ineffectively because they'll say things like, oh, yeah, I mean, we're honest and we have integrity and we have good customer service. That's not a core value. That's the cost of doing business. It's not a core value. A core value is, we only have good days and great days. We are the best part of our patient's day. We promise. So my wife and I'll just be more vulnerable about this since it's uncut. My wife and I have had core values in our marriage since we were first married. I saw what my parents did in their 3 marriages and said, yeah, I don't want to do that. And so one of our core values is radical transparency. And we promise radical transparency, but not honesty. I didn't go to my wife and say, hey, will you marry me? Oh, and by the way, I'll start being honest with you. That's like kind of wrapped in the proposal, right? But I said, let's create something that would go beyond that so we can actually talk to each other, even when it's hard, even when it's frustrating, even when it's not nice sometimes, to be able to, like, this is how I feel and this is how it's making me feel that when you're doing X. Well, if we can bring that into the office, now we're talking about core values as opposed to personal judgment on people. If my core value is radical transparency in the office, then I can go and say, hey, since we have a core value, radical transparency, let's talk about this, as opposed to, you know what, I don't think you're very honest with that person about that. I say, well, there's a personal judgment that they're going to fight up against. So in this case, we set up these core values. And here's the hard part that people are going to probably freak out when they hear this. Within 6 months, he had a 90% turnover in his office. I know a lot of people don't want to hear that. That's a good thing. But what it did is it had people have to make a decision. and letting people make a decision of, do I want to join this and agree to this or no? Now, by the way, first thing people did was fought against it, right? And said, hey, doctor, why are you doing this? We should go back to the way it was. I'm more comfortable there. And instead, he held the line, and luckily he had me there to say, hey, no, hold the line. This is what you said you wanted. So we're going to create this. He had those people leave, but what happened? When they left, a bigger door opened. A door of people who were like, yes, we want this. We're on board with this. We love this. And now suddenly he's having an office where it's energizing him. It's not draining him. It's exciting him. It's not depressing him. He's going home and he's a better father. He's more attentive. He's a better husband. He's more approachable. And it makes everything else change. And so my full-on theory that I have proven over and over again for the last decade is, if you focus on the personal side of that, not just your business will get better, but everything will get better. And so when we look at communication like that, we do have to have very specific things. Hey, like if an office manager approached one of my doctors like that, there would absolutely be a wait. Really? Would you want to hear it that way? Let's go for, here's 5 other ways we can say it better. Here's 5 other ways that we can approach it and get a better response, because it's not about how you say it. It's about how people respond to what you say. So that's just an example. I hope that answered your question there, but yeah, that was a little deeper than that we were going to go.
The interesting thing about the people that like need this type of work and support the most is that oftentimes I think like doctors, business owners, they don't know that there's a better way. They don't know that there's another option, and they can get stuck in it. And the reality is, all of this is trainable. All of this is learning. Like, we didn't go to school in university, college, high school and learn communication or learn how to create values to set up our life. Like, we just didn't learn these things. And so of course, if you get into a business, you don't have the direction, you don't know where you want to go, and you don't know even how to bring the people in and kind of align to your goals and values, you're going to have some stress and some discomfort and some disease. But the cool thing is, when you can learn that this is something that's solvable, you actually can change your entire life. And so for the doctors, or for the people that, might be stuck right now, or just might be like, wait a second, he's saying some things that are resonating with me. What would you say would be like the next step or the first step for them to take to kind of elevate or just even get out of the mud?
Get on the scale. So you cannot change what you will not acknowledge. And it's the reason why we all hate this scale so much. Every single person, I don't care what you weigh, I don't care how good you're doing, no one gets excited about stepping on the scale, because it's black and white. It says what it is. No matter how much you hold your breath or think light thoughts or anything like that, it's going to give you a result. And one of the challenges is, we as human beings have a hard time with that data feedback, because in our heads, for example, there's a study that Harvard did that said that 90% of people think they're self-aware. But according to the study that they did, only 13% of people are actually self-aware, right? So we have this idea in our head of who we are and what we're doing, but we're not willing to say, hey, is that true? Like, let's test that theory. And so we have to get on the scale, because you cannot change what you will not acknowledge. To your point, though, I will say that a lot of us been set up in situations where we weren't given the tools necessary, and we're not even aware of it. I'll give you an example. In business, as business owners, a huge word that is used all the time is delegation. Learn how to delegate better. Learn how to delegate what you do. Who, not how, all that stuff. And I'm a huge fan of that. But here's the problem. Do you remember the time when you were in high school and you had to do a report on the grapes of wrath, and your teacher said, hey, you have a 5-page report due on the grapes of wrath. Make sure you find someone else to do that report for you and delegate that task out. No one did that. We were never taught that. Matter of fact, we got punished if we did it. And then we become business owners, which, by the way, we become business owners who go through dental school, or if we went to a specialty, and almost none of you were trained on how to be a business owner. Not a single one of you, unless you went on your own and took your own master's a business course, or you were lucky and you had like a quarter where they talked about something. They didn't teach you how to be a business owner. No wonder the stress levels are so high. No wonder our suicide rates are so high, because you're dealing with things that are so frustrating and no one's teaching you. And what are you doing? You're learning from the person before you who learned from the person before them. And it is a blind leading the blind situation. That's why stuff like with Dentalflix, one of the things I really appreciate it is that it is saying, let's give you education that you weren't given before. Let's think outside the box and let's actually help you be a better business owner, person, citizen, father, whatever, because you weren't given that before. And we have to, as a community, have to start doing more of that. And that's why I think it's really brilliant to have a program like this.
So a lot of doctors right now are really struggling with keeping a team. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And what I hear, because I'm a business coach, I work with a lot of practice owners, is, oh, there's just no good people out there.
I know.
Right. And so that's what we're hearing. And that's okay, because that's just their belief.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
Right. And so that's just their belief based on their experience. Right.
Mm-hmm.
But in my experience, when you have a team that keeps leaving you every month, every quarter, right? Sometimes we have to now step on the scale, and we have to create the ability to take ownership and ask ourselves the hard questions.
Mm-hmm.
And the hard questions is, okay, what is my role in this? Right. Yep. And so it's very interesting, because I'm very curious, because I know that this is an area that you spend, like, you're an expert in this area, right? So in your experience, what is the correlation between, for example, the work that you do, and the beliefs that people have, and how those beliefs may not actually be correct?
Well, I think that we a lot of times create our own realities, and it's a lot easier to create a negative reality than to have to work on stuff that would make it more positive or have us actually look in the mirror. I'll say this for myself in my own life, right? There are times where I have to look at my business and go, all right, it's not going the way that I want. It's very easy to blame. It's very easy to say, well, it's because of this, because of the economy, it's because of COVID, because of Generation Z and Y and all this stuff. It's very easy. But to look in and go, okay, what am I attracting, or what am I putting out there that is not actually attracting the people that I want? Am I hiring too quickly because I'm just looking for a warm body? And so it's a hiring process that I haven't fleshed out. And guess what? Times have changed. So maybe we do need to look at our hiring process, our interview process. Maybe we need to take a little more time to talk to people. Maybe it's that I'm not actually letting them know how much I appreciate them and care about them. The number one reason why people leave a job is a lack of appreciation, or feeling a lack of appreciation. And I get doctors to say this all the time. When I say this to them, they'll be like, what are you talking about? Like, I do pizza nights, and we do lunches together, and I give them a paycheck, and we do bonuses and all stuff. And I'm like, no. Everybody has their own personal desire for appreciation. There's actually 5 that I use, where I look at kind of like love languages, where people feel it differently, right? So you got to know theirs and appreciate them. You don't have to give it to them all the time, but you got to be deliberate about it. Maybe it's you not being willing to just say, hey, maybe it's my communication style. Maybe me saying this is what I want, and this way it has to be, and being a little more short, just like you were talking about the office manager earlier. Maybe it's the doctor have to kind of look at it and ask, have you asked your friends and family members? Have you asked team members? Have you ex-team members? Have you asked patients? Hey, what's your style? I'll give you an example. I just had a doctor reach out to me. She's the sweetest girl. I mean, I just really like her a lot. We've worked together for over a year, and she's she's not an associate, she's a partner, but she's buying out the other doctor from in the practice. They got a Google review. There's a 5-star Google review, just what everybody wants. And she wrote to me and it's like, how do you think I should respond to this? And told me a little bit of the background about this patient. And at the middle of the review, it talks about Dr. So-and-so always is friendly and listening to me. Dr. So-and-so, she's always seems disinterested and blah, blah, blah. Now, obviously, that doctor focused on that one sentence, which is good, because I wanted her to, she can recognize, oh, there's a difference between the two. Now, our conversation became about self-awareness. So do you recognize sometimes that when you talk to somebody, you don't ask a follow-up question and you just go on to the next thing because you're just doing the job that you're supposed to be doing? There's nothing wrong with it. But here's somebody saying, spray paint on your wall, I feel this way when you do this. And you're either going to go, well, look at the graffiti they wrote, how terrible. Or you're going to go, oh, maybe that's a clue, and I should look into that, of why that person did that. Absolutely, it could be a one-off. but it might not be. And so being able to be self-reflective and say, how is this about me? There's a question that I ask. I'm going to throw this out there. Last thing real fast is, again, I'm going to go back to my marriage. My marriage is obviously the most important thing in my life. I could lose everything, but my marriage, I mean, one of my favorite things to do is run errands with my wife. I just really enjoy her. We've been married 30 years. But one of the things that we've created is a question that we ask. And I would ask your doctors and everybody listening to this to try this out in a very sincere way and be ready to receive, not defend, is this. My wife and I, probably now we do it. I'm married so long, we probably do it maybe once every 6 months. But when we were younger, and especially when we had younger kids, we did a lot more. The question was this, honey, how am I doing as a husband? How am I doing as a father? And when I ask that question, I'm ready to receive. I'm ready to hear. I'm not ready to defend. I want to know because I want to grow. But it's a trigger for her too. Because when I ask that question, it's not a trigger for her to go, oh, well, let me tell you how you've been doing, right? It's her to go, oh, you are asking sincerely and you want to know. Okay, well, in this area, I think you're doing really, really great. I love that you're doing this, but here's some areas. And I'll tell you, for me, one of the moments that she said this and we did this was a sarcasm. I love to be sarcastic. I like to crack jokes and stuff like that. And we had 3 young kids at the time. And the one that really slapped me upside the head and made me rethink things was she said, I really appreciate the time and effort you're spending into being with the kids and being with me. And I know you got a busy schedule, XYZ. But lately I've noticed the kids are trying to be as sarcastic as you are because of your sarcasm that you throw out there. And they're being hurtful and biting. And I've never really seen it that way because I've known you for so long. But I think sometimes you can be hurtful and biting in your sarcasm. Whoa. Like now I'm giving that to my kids. And boy, what did I see right away when my kids, I'm like, you are being little jerks. Like that's so mean the way you're saying that shifted me completely. The point is if you're willing as an owner to say, hey team, and maybe one-on-ones and in the evaluation moments, right? When you're having those interviews to say, hey, can I ask you a question? Honestly, and you can just be free, talk freely. How am I doing as a leader? And just see what they say. Some of them will give you real stuff. Some of them will give you platitudes, but it's the people that are just like, well, if you want to be honest, I think sometimes you're kind of quick to shout at us, or sometimes you don't seem like you care about our lives. And sometimes, wow, what great information. But you have to be willing to ask it.
So good. So if doctors are hearing what you're saying and they're wanting to know, like, what do you do? How can you help me? Can you
Hmm.
share a little bit more about specifically
Yeah.
how you help and how people can contact you?
Yeah, so I come into offices typically. Last year I did 93 presentations, whether it be on a stage or in people's offices. So that was a lot. Probably not gonna do that many this year. But I come into your office and I usually do a 1 or 2 day office visit where I'll evaluate for the first day. We send in some surveys beforehand and things like that, a couple interviews with the doctors beforehand about what they want, what they're looking for. And then I will come in and I will be with the team and just kind of get to know them. One of the things I am is years ago, I was a certified body language expert. So I watch a lot of what's going on with the body language that's happening with people and how their interactive, their communication is happening. Then the next day, I do a training with the entire team where we talk about communication, connection, body language. It's fun, it's funny, it's emotional, it's everything. And it's one of my favorite things to do because I've done it for teams that have, 6 people all the way up to 60 people and then big events. And then I also do a lot of doctor appreciation events. I know a lot of orthodontists, if they're watching this, they do doctor appreciation events. I do a lot of those where I do a lot of interactive training and CE credit with teams. So they can come out and do that. And then I have online courses. I have an online course that is really impacting around multi-generational communication. That's a huge problem that's happening right now. You've got boomers, millennials, Gen X, Gen Z, and all that stuff. How do you communicate together? And I created a whole course on how to understand and connect and create with them. So I do that. And so you can reach out to me at dino@dinowatt.com. You can go see dinowattconsulting.com is my practice management type stuff, what I do there and how I consult with people and what my philosophies are. And then dinowatt.com talks more about my speaking and my stagecraft and how I do that.
I love it. Thank you so much for being on the Dentalflix Uncut podcast. And I will just say, You are a celebrity in the orthodontic world for
In my own mind.
really for the engagement that you bring. And so if you want to work with Dino, he is definitely going to bring transformation and fun and engagement. And so thank you so much, Dino, for being on the Dentalflix Uncut podcast, and follow us for another episode.
You just unlocked valuable insights with Dentalflix Uncut, but there's more. Dentalflix is not just a podcast, it's a thriving community, a hub of knowledge, and the #1 online streaming CE platform in dentistry. With just a few clicks, you can start exploring a wealth of resources, including in-depth training on leadership, case acceptance, scheduling, hiring, weekly marketing calls, insightful gap assessments, and scorecards, all designed to help you master what you discovered today and propel you further on your path to dental excellence. Head to dentalflix.com to get started for free and embark on your journey towards mastery. Thanks for tuning in to Dentalflix Uncut. See you next time.